esteemed members of the ICAB, especially the esteemed members of the media. Very good morning to you all. I feel very pleased and honored to welcome you all to the press conference organized by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Bangladesh on the budget declared by the government. Special welcome to the esteemed members of the media who are from different newspapers, journals, etc. with us. The Institute of Chartered Accountants of Bangladesh, you know that is the regulator of the accounting profession in the country. It always takes part in pre-budget dialogue with the concerned authorities of the government. ICAB believes that it has an important role to play in the policy formulation of the country for the betterment of the society as well as the whole nation. It does not look after segmental benefits of the nation. Rather, it looks after the inclusive benefit and welfare of the nation. ICAB takes up remedial measures to ensure transparency in the financial reporting system, which goes in favor of the policymakers. Through national webinars, we are also making efforts to offer recommendations to the policymakers of the country. Today's press conference is very important, and I believe that our president here would give us a welcome speech. And two of our presenters are here, Mr. Shahadat Hussain and Mr. Snehashish Borua. And the press conference would be moderated by the esteemed chairman of the Committee on Taxation and Corporate Laws. So I especially welcome all of them to this press conference, and I am really grateful to you all. Now, I would like to hand over to the Honorable President of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Bangladesh to deliver his welcome speech. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Subhashish Bose, CEO of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Bangladesh. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear journalists, brothers and sisters, ICAB Council members, honorable members of the Institute, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum and very good morning to you all. At the today's virtual press conference on national budget, I would say Finance Bill event 2021-2022. My heartfelt gratitude to you all for your kind participation. We would like to congratulate the government of Bangladesh, led by Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, on the announcement of the national budget for the fiscal year 2021 and 2022. ICAB, as a professional regulatory body and associate of the government, we are thankful to the government for accepting large number of proposals made by our research firm from different industries led by TCLC committee chairman. This budget in terms of size, you know, is 600,000 crores plus, equivalent to 17.5% of GDP, which is increased by 12% compared to last year. The deficit is also an earmark 200,000 crore plus, which is 35% around of the total budget and 6% plus of GDP. Revenue is targeted Taka 389,000 crores. Will be really a challenging job to realize due to the unprecedented adverse impact of COVID-19 on our economy. Our tax GDP ratio is already lower in this subcontinent. It is also clear where the ratio will stand after fiscal year 2021-22. It is not even clear. GDP growth has been predicted 7.2% for the upcoming year, while GDP growth of last year was revised at 6.2%. Obviously, it will be very difficult, challenging to achieve, but not impossible, especially considering GDP growth of last year. We believe that the joint initiative of NBR and the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Bangladesh in implementing document verification system will facilitate to collect tax revenue and also enhance tax net. We also believe that this initiative will bring about transparency and accountability in fiscal arena. We must thank the finance minister to insert this important issue in his budget speech. To achieve the targeted GDP growth, on quality spending is very imperative, and ADP implementation is the crucial over the last period of time. For generation of employment, focusing to support the budget, although through the policy support to the business, which ultimately facilitate employment generation, for example, reduction of corporate tax, exemption to the various industries, particularly agriculture, agro-based industrialization, or setting up hospital outside the major cities, encouraging young entrepreneurs for industrialization, ultimate creation for the job. We appreciate the initiative and support in the budget. We believe none of the good initiative will bring result unless we can curb down the prevailing COVID situation, the wave after wave, and this will affect on our economy. Our recommendation would be strongly, or expectation would be strongly on curbing down the COVID situation through proper vaccination. Health sector need to be focused more especially due to the prevailing situation. And as I mentioned, government projected 80% people will be vaccinated in the upcoming fiscal year, which need to have more clarity and strategic planning to implement. Dear audience, as our corporate tax, as you are already aware, corporate tax, government has reduced down by 2.2%, 2.5% to 30%. It is really a very good move for our business friendliness. On the other hand, enhancing withholding tax from 5% to 7% is basically a contradict with the reduction of corporate tax, as because if it is 7% is final settlement of taxes, this will create burdensome on the corporates. So whereby reducing to corporate taxes 30% will not have a significant effect on them. Individual tax burden should also be considered what we expect, as because this everybody's life, everybody's financial condition affected by this pandemic situation. We urge to the government to look into their interest as well for their lives and balancing on their lives and their survivability. Government proposition on transgender and women entrepreneurship, SME entrepreneurship, I would say, is really welcoming move. The budget proposed tax exemption for IT-enabled services, just including 22 new sectors is very welcoming, and definitely it will cater to digital Bangladesh move from here to the next level. I congratulate the National Board of Revenue and the ministries, government at large, for bringing our concept, what we proposed, made in Bangladesh. I definitely congratulate again for their inclusion in the fiscal arena. So putting some of the industries, light engineering and manufacturing, under this concept and encouraging them, allowing tax reductions, exemptions for a substantial number of years. And we would also see number of proposition from the Institute with regard to value-added tax has been accepted, which is welcomed by the business fraternities and the government exchangers. I would also thank the government for putting the chartered accountants as authorized representative and custom consultant in the Customs Act. Thank you once again from core of our heart. As you know, every year we propose and as we work as a government associates, as I mentioned in our earliest speech, that we are still having our proposition to the government in which area we can further put our efforts for bringing the more transparency and inclusive effort to bring more tax net to in our national exchequers, and we can offer further contribution to the next government. If anything needed from institute, we are ready to extend to the National Board of Revenue and the government. And before conclusions, my dear journalists and the audience today, your propositions, your comments is highly expected. In all together, this is an inclusive effort, and I believe we could make our country, Shunar Bangla, what is dream in our minds. So before conclusion, I would like to express my sincere gratitude again to all of you for your kind presence today, and wishing you all safe and pleasant time during this pandemic. Now I would like to request our past president and TCLC chairman, Mr. Humayun Kabir, APCA, to conduct the remaining session as moderator. Thank you for your patient hearing. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. President. For the sake of convenience of understanding of everyone, I rather pleased to moderate the session in Bangla. Where necessary, our presenters, they can present their presentation either in the language in English or Bangla at their wish. আমি এই পর্যায়ে আমরা সবাই যে কারণ আমাদের প্রেসিডেন্ট সাহেব বলেছেন যে বাজেট সম্বন্ধে ইনস্টিটিউটের পার্সপেক্টিভে ওনাদের বক্তব্য রেখেছেন। এই ব্যাপারে আমি আমার কোনো অবজারভেশন থাকলে আমি শেষ পর্যায়ে কিছুটা বলার চেষ্টা করব, বাট আশা করি আমাদের দুইজন প্রেজেন্টেশন আছেন, এই প্রেজেন্টার দুইজন ওনাদের বক্তব্য আমরা শুনি, তারপরে বিফোর উই গোয়িং ফর ফাইনালি দি কোশ্চেন আনসার সেশন from the audience, particularly the journalist community, যদি ওনাদের কোনো প্রশ্ন থাকে আমরা সেক্ষেত্রে আমরা শুনবো, তাদের উত্তর দেওয়ার চেষ্টা করব। এই পর্যায়ে মে আই রিকোয়েস্ট our resource person, Mr. Shahadat Hussain, who is our council member as a past vice president. He has been doing this analysis on the budget, particularly in macro aspect. This year also he has come out with his presentation. Mr. Shahadat Hussain, may I request you to present your presentation on the budget, macro aspect. Mr. Shahadat, please unmute yourself. Mr. Shahadat, do you hear me? Please unmute yourself.
Yes, he's fixing some of the technical glitch. He's coming up soon.
He is muted. সাদত ভাই আনমিউট করেন।
I did ছিলাম একটু ই করে দেন তো দেখি প্লিজ। অনারেবল প্রেসিডেন্ট, আমার এটা কোন জায়গা, স্লাইডটা দিতে পারবো?
If you have technical glitch, Shahadat, you
Yeah.
can start. আপনি তাহলে আপনি বক্তব্য ইয়েতে বলেন, মুখে বলেন।
Okay, I can see my
আপনার ওখানে দিলে আপনি শো করলেন
স্যার হয়ে গেছে পেন্ডেটটা সমস্যা আমি হয়েছে এটা দিচ্ছেন।
স্লাইড না করতে পারলে আপনি মুখে বলুন, আপনার কথা অডিও বলা।
Yeah, Mr. Moderator, just give me yeah. Presentation. And ইয়ে দেন, শেয়ারিং দিয়ে দেন। শেয়ারিং দেওয়া আছে, শেয়ারিংটা দিয়ে দেন।
শেয়ারিং হয় নাই।
শেয়ারিংটা দিয়ে দেন একটু। এটা দিয়ে দেন। Thank you. Most well, I'm audible, yeah?
Yes,
okay, thank you.
Presentation mode. Make it presentation mode.
Okay, thank you. Sorry for interruption in the technical fault. Honorable Chair, Honorable President, Honorable Members, ICAB and Honorable journalists of this press conference, I am Shahadat Hussain, is going to present some highlights on macroeconomic aspect, how it is being impacted in this country's financial perspective. Before I going to do some presentation, I'd like to present conditions, economic condition of the country. As we know, whole world of the country is under passing a COVID-19 pandemic, and due to this pandemic, we know almost 13% of our people has lost their work during last year, and also 16.4 million people came under poverty level, and educational institutions have been closed since March 2020, and nearly 38 billion students have missed out the opportunity to running their learnings. Pandemic has also impacted domestic and foreign investments during the first 9 months period of the current financial year. Growth private sector loan is only 8%, which has been projected for 15%, and also decrease the import of capital machineries by almost 30%, decrease import of goods almost 9%, import of raw materials 1%, and overall import has reduced by 7%. And in spite of this downward trend of the economy, still there is GDP growth 5.2% during the financial year 1920, whereas World Bank has been projected it is 1.6%, and IMF has been projected 2%. In this situation, the tremendous improvement has taken place in the wage earners remittance inflow, which is almost 40% during the financial year 2021 compared with the previous year. And end of the April 2021, foreign exchange reserves has stood at about 44.95 billion USD, which is almost 25% higher than that of the previous period. And inflation position is almost static and very much in line with the projection. Now I would like to present something about supplementary budget. In supplementary budget, it is revised by supplementary budget of 2021, it is revised by 5%. Although it is revised by 5% is very negligible, but considering the achievement, achievement of revenue collection, ADB implementation, record of receiving foreign loans, and as part of difference between revised budget and actual account, it appears that achievement of this revised budget may also be challenging. Now, why it is challenging, you can see in my last this presentation there. In the budget of 2019-20, total budget size was 5,23,000. It has been revised, only 4% reduced. But when it is implemented and finally it is achieved, it is 16% less than the revised budget. So, and one question is here: revised budget is approved by the Parliament, but how this actual account is approved? And now I would like to yes, it was 19 right. Now volume of the budget 2021-22. Total budget size of this 21-22 is 6,03,681, which is 17.5% of the total GDP. And this composition is like this: operating expenditure is 63%, and development expenditure is 37%, and financing is revenue 64%, and loan is 36%. Here, I would like to mention that revenue is proposed to contribute only 1% in the revised for the development expenditure, which was 4% in the revised budget. So the dependency on the deficit budget is increasing here. And now revenue projection is 3,89,000 crore, which includes NBR 3,30,000, 85% of the total revenue, and which is only 10% higher than the previous revised budget. Here, small observation is that in the budget, GDP growth is 7.2% and inflation is 5.3%. So total gross improvement is inward trend is 12.5%, but revenue has been projected only 10% growth. And loan financing is that foreign finance is mainly 98,000 crore has been projected, which is 43% higher than the previous revised budget. However, how far this is achievable, this depends. This is questioned, because if we look at the previous year's achievement, it can be seen that only 39% of the budget or 46% of the budget has been achieved. So under this perspective, we can say that mostly it will be finally dependent on the internal sources of the financing. And this is the allocation side. If you look at this, mostly in terms of percentage, it is mostly same. So nothing is deviation, like defense is 5.5% as against 5.4%. Similarly, all are in terms of percentage is similar. And some comments on securities, social security net. In this area, total government has allocated 1,07,614 crore. We know, as earlier mentioned, 16.4% people has gone under the poverty level due to pandemic, and considering this situation, only 12,000 more than the previous year budget. How far it is sufficient? There is a question, and we think it is not sufficient. More budget need to be allocation here. And next, another important area of budget allocation is interest sector. Allocation, the interest has got 68,620 crore, which is 11.2% of the total budget. The substantial amount is being kept due to borrowing fund at high cost, despite having available low cost fund in the bank. This allocation, in one hand, shrinking the allocation for social security, which is useful for the poor. On the other hand, small investors or fixed deposit are not getting sufficient return from the investment. And in this correction, I would like to mention one issue that in the budget, more expenditure for the interest lead to more deficit of the budget. More deficit lead to the more borrowings, and more borrowings lead to the more interest. So I think government should look into this area. And there's ADP implementation. As regards to GDP, I can say total budget allocation is 2,25,324, which is 8% higher than the previous year. The allocation is sufficient and good enough, but one thing is important to mention here, that its implementation procedures and precedents. You see, in the financial year 1920, in the month of July, implementation was only 1.84%, less than 2%. But in the month of June, end of the month, its implementation is 23%. Now, what is happening? These types of implementation procedure. If we look at the June 2020, it can be seen that total GDP was implemented for the amount of taka 46,315, and for this huge amount, Bangladesh Central Bank had to circulate money 25% in this month of June 25% more than that of month of June 2019, and consequently, in the month of July 20, 34% money circulation had been circulated compared with that of July 2019. And this practice is happening almost every year. This practice, in one hand, we think distort the quality of the work. On the other hand, creates scope of mismanagement as well as scope of corruption due to huge pressure on this fund. And monetary policy is one of the most important area of our budget. As we know, almost 16.4% people has went to the under poverty level. Many of the peoples migrated from urban to rural area due to losing their job. Also, revenue has not been collected expectedly. However, we cannot deny the fact that the economic condition of the country was not so bad. The main credibility of such well-managed economy is the proper adjustment of monetary policy. Substantial amount of money for stimulus package and other government expenditure has been managed by cutting repo rate, introducing reverse repo, cutting cash reserve, and circulating more money. If we see the financial figure as well as the graph, it can be seen that in the year 2021 financial year, 16% of narrow money currency has been circulated compared with that of 10%, 9%, 12% earlier years. Also broad money, and we can also see the graph that it has been is upward trend. Now the question is, if the money has been circulated, high amount of money circulated, but compared with this, inflation was almost stagnant, almost static. How it is possible? How? Firstly, main reason behind this, maintaining sufficient supply of essential commodities, and secondly, a substantial part of excess supplied money has gone to high income level of people, and it has not been spent behind essential commodities. Rather, it has been deposited to the bank. If we look at the bank deposit position in the month of December and onward of 2020, it can be seen that deposit has increased substantial amount by 13.5%. And not only increase the deposit, the number of accounts holder bearing amount of deposit amount of taka 1 crore to 50 crore has increased substantially. And this practice actually widening the economic inequality. One thing I would like to mention here, that implementation of budget through adjusting monetary policy may be a temporary solution, but cannot be followed year after year. Because this practice continues, if this practice is continuous in next year, it may be need to have normal increase of price of luxurious items, and luxurious items like land, apartments, and it will also widening the inequality, not only with the low income group, but it will also create widening with the middle income group also. Finally, presently, the major concern of our country economy is the poverty due to COVID-19, economic inequality. We know as per Gini index, the economic inequality in every 5 years after it is gradually increasing in our country. and unemployment also one of the problem. And with the aim of addressing those issues in the budget, focusing on unemployment generation through skill development, exemption in light engineering, exemption in agro-based industries, and building a new concept made in Bangladesh in the proposed budget is appreciable, but proper execution is required. Proposal for increasing surcharge on high income group is also appreciable. And finally, saying that the GDP growth target at 7.2% is appreciable. However, it seems to be challenging to achieve. Thank you all. Thank you very much.
আপনাকে ধন্যবাদ আপনার প্রেজেন্টেশনের জন্য। যদি কোনো কেউ সাংবাদিক বন্ধুরা প্রশ্ন রাখেন আমরা পরবর্তীকালে নিব। আমরা এই পর্যায়ে প্রেজেন্টেশন জনাব স্নেহাশিসকে অনুরোধ করব। জনাব স্নেহাশিস, আপনি কি আছেন কানেক্টেড?
জি স্যার, আমি আছি। জি
স্নেহাশিস, ওনার প্রেজেন্টেশন ফাইন্যান্স বিলের উপর, obviously as you know, which address mostly the income tax, VAT এবং custom duty সংক্রান্ত। So let's watch the presentation of Mr. Snehashish Bora.
Thank you, Honorable Moderator, for giving me the opportunity. At the very outset, I'd like to thank the President ICAB, Council members, past President, my fellow colleagues, and friends from print and electronic media. A very good morning to all of you. So my another colleague, Shadat Bhai, has already touched upon on the macroeconomic part. I will take you through the salient features on the Finance Bill 2020-21, which has been placed just 2 days back. So Shadat Bhai has taken you through the overall budget allocation, but I would like to show you the comparative between NBR tax collections with non-NBR taxes. So as he has mentioned already, that there is a 10% increment as compared to the revised budget of 2021-22. So it has increased to 330,000 from 301,000 from revised budget of 2021. So now, how much we have collected as of now? So if we look into the recent statistics of NBR, out of 301,000 crore, NBR has collected 180,000 crore. So this leaves a huge deficit in terms of collection. However, the promising part is, like, if we compare with 2019-20 collection, where NBR collected approximately 215,000 crore, so which is, at least we can see there are some growth in terms of overall collections. So there might be year-on-year growth, but collecting 330,000, as our president has mentioned, bit challenging. And then if we also take you through the overall allocation between direct and indirect tax component, if you can see from the original budget of 2021 to 21-22, then you can see the overall allocation has not been changed that much. We can see the proportion of direct tax is 32%, and remaining 68% will be collected from indirect taxes, mostly VAT, import duty, and supplementary duty, which is at par as per last year budgets. So I have divided my presentation into 3 segments. First, I will take you through direct tax, then on VAT and supplementary duty, and my last segment will be on custom duty. So in direct tax, if we would like to talk about corporate tax, we know from all the budget reaction that businessmen are really happy because the tax rate has been reduced to 2.5% for publicly traded company and non-publicly traded company. Of course, this is welcoming, and this is investment friendly too, because in last 2 years, NBR has shown the courage to reduce the tax rate by 5%. But again, if we can compare ourselves with our neighboring economies like Vietnam, China, and Indonesia, whether we are still comparable. If you look into Vietnam corporate tax rate, it is still 20%, where our standard rate is 30%. China, it is a bit higher, but still lower than us. And Indonesia, they have a rate of 22%, which will be reduced to 20% from next year, means 2022. So still we can have that, that saying that we need to reduce that rate to be comparable. Now, taking into the perspective whether these changes of budget, the corporate tax rate, will be beneficial for us or not. As you can hear from our president's speech, that he has also mentioned about changes in TDS rate on supply of goods. If you can remember in the past, last 4 থেকে 5 বছরে, you will see there is a significant change in section 52 কে ঘিরে। একবার মানে আপনার ফাইন্যান্স বিলে আসে বা ফাইন্যান্স অ্যাক্টে আসে, কস্ট অফ গুডস সোল্ড এর উপরে কোনো ট্যাক্স কাটতে হবে না, which is more rational and justified because we are paying tax in advance before making profit. Then again, after 2 years, you are revoking that section. এবং আগেও আপনার এই রেটটা ছিল লাইক it was 5%. It was 5%. Then 3 years back, it was increased to 7%. যদিও গত 2 বছর আগে এটাকে 5% আনা হয়েছিল, এখন আবার 7% এ নিয়ে যাচ্ছে। So we can see an inconsistency in this policy. So এই জন্য as you can see, only TDS at the rate of 2% will be applicable only for company in cement, iron and iron related products. So this is going to substantially increase the burden of the আপনার supplier of goods and execution of contracts. আপনারা দেখবেন in Bangladesh, whenever you are doing business, in all cases chapter 7 মানে TDS deduction at sources. So we have not seen any rationalization in chapter 7 এ যে withholding tax এ, বরঞ্চ if you can see there are stringent regulations has been brought in. Now if you are not paying your supplier through banking channel, which includes mobile financial services, a very thanks to NBR, at least they have recognized MFS as a payment medium. So now if you are not paying through banking channel, 50% TDS মানে আপনার যে 7% বলেছেন, that 7% will increase to 10.5%. That 5% will become 7.5%. So this increases burden not only to the supplier but also to the customer. At both end, this is going to increase the burden. And then আপনারা যদি আরো দেখেন, like in case of cash payment to suppliers, there was no limit previously, but through this finance bill, if you pay more than 50,000 টাকা, আপনার এই যে খরচটা যেটা আছে সেই খরচটা কিন্তু will not be considered as an allowable expenses. So if you link with the VAT law তে the rebate will be cancelled if you do not pay at least কত 1 লাখ টাকার উপরে যদি হয়, আপনি যদি ব্যাংকিং চ্যানেলে পে না করেন তাহলে রেয়াত বাতিল হতে পারে। So at least এই rationalizationটা we can expect between direct tax and indirect taxes. সো এখন এই যে কথাগুলো আমরা বললাম যে চ্যাপ্টার 7 এ কোনো ধরনের রেট রেশনালাইজেশন হয়নি, আমি এখানে চেষ্টা করেছি একটা কম্পারেটিভ আনতে। যদি